Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, meathead. But I remember the first day I made $2,000, which was a big fucking deal to me. 1971, I think. Fuck, I was living large. And then I was going to graduate school, waiting to go to law school. And then I made $10,000 in a day. And I thought, well, that fucking $2,000 was chicken shit, it was chump change. And I went out, I bought a new car, and I bought 5 new suits. And I mean, I just, and I still get goosebumps thinking about it. But once you start to be successful and you use those, because again, your subconscious doesn't know you're full of shit. And now I don't use those anymore. Once in a while, I think back upon the $100 million day, because that was a pretty good day. But
you only imagine the feeling.
It's like the best sex you ever had times 1,000 or 1,000,000, and it lasts several days. The feeling, when Roberto bought Sally and I a drink about a year ago at the Loa Hotel, and just after we made $70 million, and Sally couldn't remember what Roberto looked like, and when my back was to the door, and Sally's sitting here and says, "There's a guy with a smile about that wide walking in the door," and she's got dark skin. Yes, I said, "That's Roberto. That's my half-breed boy." And I mean, he had a smile like this for 6 months, literally. But the guys, his employees, his 4 key employees, he gave $10 million to, 2.5, which is unheard of. And those guys, but that's why he was able to do 11 deals during Corona. Those 4 guys never went home from about April 1 till November 1. They never went home. But they did 11 deals. He says it was, but I mean, oh yeah.
When you say he made $70 million, like he pulled out $70 million?
No, he didn't pull out. He had $70 million. He could have wrote a check, but he didn't. Yeah, I mean, and I mean, and again, poorness rubs off, but so does richness. That's not, I don't know if that's a word, but I mean, he now belongs to 2 or 3 clubs in London. He can't, not London, I mean in New York. He can't join the Harvard Club or the Prince or Yale Club because he didn't go to any school. He went to he got kicked out of school when he was 15-ish. But the clubs that cost big money, that have big waiting lists, he's a member of all of them now. No waiting lists. I mean, and he bought another car. He bought a place in the Hamptons for about, that was on the market for, I think, $14 million. He paid $9 million. Hamptons is a place you go to in New York where rich people go on the weekend. He's, but he's the only guy that's ever asked me, how many times am I going to get my 20 grand back? And then how many does 20 go into 70 million? But I'm proud as shit of these guys. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, this is a deal I did.
Is this a building thieving deal or?
Yes.
Okay, I'll understand it better then.
So this is a assisted living center. The list price on it was $899,000. I made him an offer of $700,000. We settled it $725,000. These are the gross revenues for.
This is the one you bought right after?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
These are the gross revenues that they had for the last 3 years and then a year to date. Corona brought it down quite a bit. But this couple was 70, in their 70s, mid 70s. They were just done, and so they had financials from before that. Actually, the highest year they had was $650,000, and they just let it decline. They everything was still on paper. They have no software in their systems, and so it just declined year after year. These were their EBITDAs. And what we did, the county assessed the property at $699,000, and so which is usually in our area about 20% less. we didn't have it professionally appraised, but that's what it usually ends up at. So we gave it a property value of $850,000. We did a bank loan of $600,000, and then we seller financed $125,000.
So it looks like 80-20?
Something like that, yeah. Yep. And bank had no problem loaning on it because it was way under the value of the property.
Is the margins usually that low in this business?
No. So another thing I should say is this amount of money, they had two properties. The 20-acre piece, they lived on it, 10 acres with a house, and then the assisted living was set on 10 acres. And so we purchased the 10 acres, somebody else purchased the house and their property, actually before we did. And this amount of money serviced the debt on the entire property. So over $62,000 a year is what it was servicing. So that already made the property payment before the financials, the net. They lived off this property, is what they did. All their gas, their food, their everything came out of but we still ran it on the low end of the numbers. This is at these numbers, the last year they had, so this is a 16 bed facility. It actually has 17, but only has a license for 16. So we have another bed that we can bring temporary residents in, short term. I think we got to keep it under a month. And then they have to discharge and then come back in. But it's another revenue source that we have. And then these numbers were at a 77% occupancy. When I first looked at this deal, they had, I think, 13 residents out of 16. And then when we finally closed the deal, they had 11. And then 1 week later, one died. So we're at 10 right now. So but we have a list of 8 residents ready to move in right now. So it's not an issue filling it. They weren't aggressive enough to fill it.
Fill them up right now?
We have. We're having a nurse issue. We have to fire a nurse. For every resident that comes in, you have to get them assessed. Our nurse isn't showing up doing the assessment so that we can actually bring them in. So we fired her. We can't necessarily fire her until we have another one to replace her because it's the only way we can administer medication underneath her license. So
it's the nurse's license.
It's the nurse's license that you administer the medication under. So in the next week, we should be getting a new nurse, which we have 3 in my state. We went in and we remodeled 3 of the units and the entire.
So are these like a fourplex or a house or
it's one big building. It's a big long building with about 4 units on one side and 5 on the other. And one is a suite. It's got a kitchen and a bed and a kitchen, its own bathroom, its own bedroom. Every other one is 2 beds, 2 a room. They share one bathroom. It was built in 2002. It's in really nice shape. We just went in, repainted it, new fixtures, flooring, got it up to par. And we've got 3 residents ready to move in. They have to quarantine individually in each room for 14 days, and then we can move them into population. So it's going to take a little bit to get completely filled. But we have 8. We have 3 ready to go right now, and a list of 8 want to move in. And this is that. The other thing that they were doing is they had their average per bed is $3,100 per bed. That's what these numbers are run off of. The state average, I'm running out of room. The state average is $3,800, and all 3 that we are bringing in are at the higher price. We're not necessarily going to kick the people out that aren't paying that price. We'll slowly attrition them out, but every time we mention $3,800 or $4,200, it's not even an issue. So
you bought it at like about 10 times EBIT, right?
No.
You guys average.
Well, that's if you include this price, though. The way that I made the deals, I broke it off of. I bought the business for $125,000. I bought the property for $600,000 is the way that I kind of made the deal. So I bought it based off this number, which was 3 times EBITDA for the revenue, and then
But you expect that number to service both.
this number's already being serviced because out of this number they were servicing a $62,000 a year, that a $1.2 million loan that they had on the whole property was being serviced out of this number that doesn't include in this number. This is strictly net revenue. Well, this is EBITDA. It's not net, but it's 1.5 times
That's
their net.
income from the actual, like, the business.
This is the final net. That's the gross revenue.
Their property value, that's the real estate.
Oh, what's that?
That's the real estate price for the building.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
this-
When we broke it up, basically we paid $600,000 for the real estate, $125,000 for the business.
And the bank kind of like combined them together.
No, the bank gave me $600,000 for the business, and then the seller financed the revenue, $125,000. The bank wanted, same thing, 10-20%. So the way that I fixed that is I had the seller hold that much, basically. So that was our first deal. Any questions?
Any question on like what we specific businesses between 20 and 40% margin?
What's that?
Yeah, for the margin, what we specific businesses between 20 and 40%.
It does have a 40% margin. If you actually, like I say, it's been a declining business over the years. Because they just weren't up to speed. If you punch in this number, okay, if you can get up to a 90% occupancy at this rate, it brings it up to I think it's a $700,000 a year, which is damn near
3800 times 16 times 12.
615.
615 is total.
Right, that's 729. Yeah, 16 beds, right?
We have 16 beds. We have 17 beds with a license for 16.
It's a 16
The
times
700.
3800 times 12. 729,000. Would be like the max revenue you can get.
Right. Like I say, we have an extra bed that we facilitate. We bring patients in and out. That alone, and that brings in, if you keep it occupied, it brings in almost $6,000 a month because you can charge more for the intermittent. People going on vacation, they want to drop their mom or dad off. That's you can charge a premium for that. So it ends up turning about $700,000 with that included.
So
We have
what would your EBITDA be at that? At 720 or something?
Well, if I'm gonna have my do 700,000.
What's your margin?
In 2019, the expenses were 360,000.
Yeah, but your expenses go up as you bring in more people, right? Or it's going to stay the same, you're just increasing.
So we're going to increase the cost up to 3,800.
But your expenses are staying the same.
Expenses stay the same, maybe besides food.
Yeah.
I mean, literally the only expense that goes up is food.
So expenses
Heat
are
stays the
300,000.
same, electric stays the same, staff stays the same. You might have to put an extra person on it at 16. Right now we're running 40 hours a day to keep it staffed.
You said expenses were how much annually?
What is it? 300. Well, like I say, you don't see here is
That can't be
the
right. If it's 300,000, then you'd be netting 400 grand if you were getting 700 revenue.
if you're running at 700.
It would jump that much because if you double.
And that's why, see, it was at that point at one time. If you only stare at this number, it doesn't look that great. But if you realize what it is and what it can be, they just let it decline to a certain point. But the building was in great shape.
Okay, this is the opposite of a QLA deal because we don't want to buy property.